In 1939, Britain stood at a crossroads. Hitler had invaded Poland, and despite years of appeasement and political hesitation, the United Kingdom declared war on Germany. It was a declaration that would change the nation and the world forever. What followed was not just a military campaign, but a national ordeal, a total war, touching every village, every home, every heart. At first, there was a strange quiet. The period became known as the Phony War. No bombs, no battles on British soil, just blackouts, gas mask drills, and eerie silence. But this calm would not last. In the spring of 1940, Hitler's armies surged through Norway, Belgium, and into France. The British Expeditionary Force found itself outmaneuvered and encircled. With defeat looming, a desperate plan was launched, Operation Dynamo. In a stunning act of defiance, civilian boats, fishing vessels, and warships crossed the English Channel under constant fire, rescuing more than 330,000 Allied troops from the beaches of Dunkirk. It wasn't a victory, but it was a salvation. Churchill called it a miracle of deliverance, but there would be no rest. With France fallen and Europe under Nazi control, Britain stood alone. The Battle of Britain began in the skies. German bombers swarmed across the Channel, seeking to destroy the Royal Air Force and prepare for invasion. Young British pilots, many barely trained, rose to meet them in fierce dogfights above the English countryside. Despite being outnumbered, the RAF held their ground. The skies were never ceded. Churchill declared, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few." The invasion was halted. Hitler turned his sights elsewhere, but his wrath would come again. The Blitz followed. Night after night, German bombers lit the sky with fire. London was bombed for 57 consecutive nights. Whole neighborhoods vanished in smoke and rubble. Coventry was flattened. Thousands died. But amid the destruction, the British spirit held firm. Civilians sought shelter in tube stations. Volunteers cleared wreckage. Firemen battled through collapsing streets. Children were evacuated to the countryside, separated from their parents. Families lived with fear, loss, and uncertainty, but they endured. On the home front, Britain became a war machine. Men joined the army. Women entered factories, operated machinery, staffed hospitals, and served in the armed forces. Housewives adapted to rationing, making meals from scraps. The nation recycled, gardened, salvaged, and saved. The war was everywhere, in every pot of tea, every blackout curtain, every knock on the door. Across the world, Britain's vast empire was drawn into the conflict. Troops from India, Africa, Australia, and Canada fought under the Union Jack. In North Africa, British forces clashed with Rommel's Afrika Korps, pushing back in the sands of El Alamein. The desert campaign was brutal, but it marked a turning point. For the first time, Hitler's forces were stopped. At sea, the Royal Navy battled German U-boats to keep vital supplies flowing to Britain. The Battle of the Atlantic raged 4 years, costing thousands of lives. Merchant ships were torpedoed, convoys were scattered, but the lifeline held. In the Far East, the Japanese threat loomed. British territories in Asia were overrun. Singapore fell. British and colonial troops became prisoners of war, enduring brutal treatment in the Pacific theater. The empire was stretched, battered, and bloodied, but still fighting. By 1943, the war began to shift. British forces joined Americans in Italy, pushing north through mountains and minefields. At home, anticipation grew. Something bigger was coming. In June 1944, the Allies launched Operation Overlord D-Day. British troops stormed the beaches of Normandy alongside American and Canadian forces. It was the largest amphibious invasion in history. British units fought inland, capturing villages, crossing rivers, enduring German counterattacks. As Allied forces pushed through France, British troops liberated towns, freed prisoners, and discovered the unimaginable horrors of Nazi concentration camps. The full scale of the Holocaust was revealed, and with it, a deeper sense of purpose. This war had to be won not just for survival, but for humanity. In May 1945, the war in Europe ended. Britain rejoiced, Crowds flooded the streets. Churchill waved to a sea of cheering faces. It was victory in Europe day there. Day. The war in the Pacific would continue until August. But for Britain, 6 long years of darkness were finally lifting. The cost was staggering. Over 450,000 British and Commonwealth soldiers and civilians had lost their lives. Entire cities were destroyed. The economy was crippled. The empire, once the largest in history, would soon begin to dissolve. But Britain had endured. From Dunkirk to D-Day, from the rubble of London to the deserts of North Africa, Britain had stood firm. It had resisted tyranny. It had defended freedom. This was not a war won by generals alone. It was won by the millions who served, who worked, who sacrificed. The miners, the mothers, the air raid wardens, the nurses, the evacuees, the pilots who never came home. Britain's victory was built on resolve, courage, and a refusal to surrender. This was the People's War, and it became their finest hour. Subscribe to the History Front for more powerful stories from the past.